plaît, s'il vous plaît.
I wanted to greet you in the language of Nelson Mandela. In the Eastern Cape, where he comes from, we speak isiXhosa. And in the afternoon, when we greet you, or in the morning, when we are referring to an individual, we say molo. Yes, molo. Then, when we are referring to a group, we say molweni. Molweni. So I'm saying to all of you, molweni. And then when you respond, you say away. Away is yes. Okay? Now let's start for the last time. Molweni. Away. Thank you very much. You are doing quite. Yes, let me take this opportunity to thank the management of the Denis and the Lenora Foundation. Am I calling it right? It is indeed an honor and privilege for me on this eve of the Nelson Mandela Centenary celebration. Had he lived, Nelson Mandela, tomorrow, the 18th of July, he would have turned 100 years. And I have had an opportunity to check in your concept document as to what is it that you want to achieve after getting out of here. It has been broken into two main topics or two themes. That is, you want to discuss Nelson Mandela's legacy, what lessons for Cameroon, and regarding identity and nationhood, and as well as resolving major conflicts. How can Cameroon benefit from South African experience? And to that effect, I have realized that we have invited experts or scholars or knowledgeable people, people who know more than I do. So my task really is to come here and be with you on this very important month, not only the month of Nelson Mandela, it is also an important year. It is an important year in the sense that the government of South Africa has this year, 2018, dedicated the whole year in the memory of Nelson Mandela. And you have seen from the clip that Nelson actually was not his original name. It's a name which was put to him by the teacher when he first went to school. And it is not only Nelson Mandela that the country that I represent is honoring this year. During that time, Mandela and his generation, they were focused on a particular mission, a mission of making sure that whatever was a problem or a challenge for the country is finally dismantled. And hence, I am here today representing my country in a foreign country which speaks French. I wanted to comment on the remarks made by the speaker who spoke here before me, but I could not because I was deprived because of the language. Having said that, so we are celebrating Nelson Mandela's centenary, which is tomorrow, and also we are celebrating Albertina Sisulu. In the clip, you must have seen that there is a very important document that was adopted in Cape Town in 1955. And unfortunately, Nelson Mandela in person was barred from attending that particular document. The document I'm referring to is a Freedom Charter. It's a charter that was drafted way before the ruling party now today could know that they will be in power. They've had a way of organizing all people from South Africa, from all the walks of life, to come together into what was called a People's Assembly to say what kind of country they envisaged. So the Freedom Charter became, since 1994, after we voted for the first time. I also had an opportunity to be one of those beneficiaries. At least by 1994, I was up and running and old enough to can cast my vote. Now, the Freedom Charter became the base document, the guiding policy document for the government and the people of South Africa. So whatever we are doing in South Africa, we are always informed by the Freedom Charter. The preamble of that charter has found its way into the preamble of our Constitution. I said to you, they managed to gather all the people from all the walks of life of South Africa. And the preamble of South Africa is South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, in their diversity. That is just part of the Freedom Charter. And the Freedom Charter has about 10 clauses, and the clause of the Freedom Charter, they talk to the main issues that were confronting the South African people at the time, and to the main issues that are still confronting South African people currently. Amongst other things, in the main now, if you follow the discussions or the news in South Africa last year and the year before, it was about education. And education in the sense that the South African young population, I see in this room, there are a lot of young people. I think I'm the oldest in the room, if I'm correct. Yes, am I right? I am the oldest. I am, for sure. I am the oldest. So, amongst other things, the Freedom Charter speaks to the people shall govern. How do the people govern? They elect the government of their choice. The people shall share in the wealth of the country. The doors of learning and culture shall be open. So I wanted to speak to the doors of learning and culture that had to be open. Before 1994, South Africa had about 10 different departments of education. I had a department of education based on the color of my skin. Some other person who is from South Africa, from another part of South Africa, belonged to another department of education. So after 1994, all those departments, different departments, had to be merged and form one Department of Education. Now today we have two departments. We have the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Higher Education. But the point that I'm referring to now, what we are still struggling with as a country, is accessibility of that education. Education, the doors of learning and culture, the doors of institutions can be open. But for them being open, is that enough? No. So the youth of South Africa for the past 3 years, they have been involved in campaigns, hashtag fees must fall, hashtag that must happen, and all that. And as I am addressing you today, based on their involvement in that movement, the government of South Africa this year, 2018, has ensured that indeed the clause of the Freedom Charter, which speaks to the doors of learning and culture being opened, it is not only literally open, it is open in the sense that every South African who qualifies to access education, higher education, must be given education free by the state. And what is currently now a challenge, what was the main problem of South Africa I have been here for 5 months. I see here you have a little bit of what we do not have. In South Africa, we do not have the luxury of owning land. And that is what is occupying the government of South Africa. And as I'm speaking to you today, South African government, through parliament, is engaged in a process of consulting people as to what is it that they want. But parliament this year has resolved to say the land, if you know the history of South Africa, the 13% of white people, they own huge properties of land. The 87% of us black, we do not have land. So what was the agenda of the Mandela and their generation at that time was for the country to get the political freedom, the right to decide, to choose the government of their own. That has been achieved. And now it is 24 to 25 years. We have the freedom to choose our government, but we do not have land. So that is what we are still struggling with. And may I say, as you will be engaging in what lessons you can learn from Mandela, because your today's focus is about Mandela, not about South Africa as a country. But what Mandela and his comrades did was to deliver to us a political power. Now the struggle for us that are still remaining continues for economic power. Economic power includes access to education, access to health, access to all these other things that make South Africa a beautiful country that it is today. So, Program Director and ladies and gentlemen, you have already seen and you know that tomorrow it's not only Nelson Mandela's birthday, it is recognized by the United Nations as a day where everybody is called upon to at least contribute in a meaningful way to changing somebody's life. So as the South African High Commission, we will be working, and I won't be staying after speaking to you here because we are preparing for an activity that we are engaged in. We didn't know that there are people here in Yaoundé who are sharing the same sentiment with us. Nelson Mandela, of course, Nelson Mandela is a South African first. Then, after being South African, he is an African. And thereafter, he becomes the world icon. So I would like to thank you very much for taking time to sit and take a leaf from his book, things that you think are of benefit to your country. You can always count on us. Maybe next year, if we plan properly, we will have a very clear program wherein we will work jointly to have a coordinated program that speaks to how we celebrate Nelson Mandela International Day. But tomorrow, we are going to some orphanage somewhere in Yaoundé. I don't know where exactly, but I know we will be spending time. We are spending 67 minutes. How did we get to the 67 minutes? Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years. Nelson Mandela spent 67 years of his life fighting for justice, for peace, for every good thing that you know him for. So in 2009, when the United Nations declared his birthday, which is tomorrow, the International Nelson Mandela Day, it was decided that at least, we are not saying you should be limited to that 67 minutes. We are saying at least if you can contribute 1 minute to each year. Remember, he gave us 67 years. So what we are doing in return to our fellow human beings, to changing the lives of people who are around us or next to us, it is just 67 minutes. 67 minutes of your time, you can do good, help somebody who needs help, you can clean the old age, you can feed the elderly, you can do all these other good things. But what we are encouraging is that if possible, let us make every day a Nelson Mandela Day. If you, let's just think, if every of, like here, we are more than 60, if one of us every day we contribute to somebody or to some institution just 67 minutes of your time, what will be of your country? Will it not be a better country? It will be. And if we contribute with those of us who are fortunate, maybe, if we contributed with what we have to make other people's lives a little bit better, will not Cameroon be a better country? It will be. So I am here to wish you all the best in your deliberations and wish that by the time you get out of here, I have read that you want to take a non-partisan posture, but you want to resolve the problems of the country. I am just interested as to how are you going to feed into the decision makers of this country, because clearly you agree that there's a problem. And if there's a problem, it needs to be solved. So it's up to you to make sure that whatever you decide, maybe we can find a way of writing it as if it is from Mandela and then delivering it to whoever and wherever. Having said that, I wish you the best of luck.